I have a podcast idea that we can pitch to Fernandez. Maybe we can get it on the factory. You ready for this?
I don't want to hear it.
The Bad Robot Podcast.
Haven't we pitched this? I feel like number one, I feel like we've pitched this to somebody else before. Number two, we've pitched it to each other. We both agree it's a good idea, but this has been in the can for a very, very long time. Like many ideas we both have. This isn't a you thing, but it's like we both have these ideas that just sit around.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to meet J.J. Abrams. That's all I want to do. So if it means putting the logo on a podcast,
only in
enough,
your mind is there that direct link,
right?
Like that's only in your mind.
Oh, you don't think J.J. Abrams would find out that there's a Bad Robot Podcast, even if it was like some kind of like copyright infringement or something?
If this was like in 2003, maybe like. Oh, somebody else is talking about it.
I think we can host, especially on the Collider platform. I mean, that's some prime time real estate, baby. If we put the Bad Robot Podcast on the Collider Factory, we can get J.J. Abrams' attention. He'll call me up and be like, I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic.
Here's the thing.
And we'll get a tour of Bad Robot, and we'll be doing special effects for episode 9 in no time.
Only Collider cares about that other people are talking about them. That's what I'm convinced of. And that's fine. I think it's great. I think they're on the forefront of something. I think other people should be paying attention because, I mean, we're available. We out here.
One of my favorite Jaye Williams quotes. You actually said this yesterday. You said, "We're the only ones that talk shit about Collider."
That's right. That's true.
No one else.
At least officially.
Right. Yeah.
At least somebody else. I think it was our friend Ralph. It was like. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was essentially to the tune of, those guys are the only people that can talk about the shit about their bosses, and they're fine with it. I don't know. I ruined it.
Oh, right.
What was that quote he said?
I have no idea. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But imagine if there were like two Schmovillians, and like Schmovillian A was talking out of turn, and Schmovillian B was like, no, you can't say that. Only Snelling and Jaye. And for some reason, there's just calm. There's this peace across Schmoville and across Collider. Nobody was talking shit because only you and I would be allowed to. That would only happen in Trump's America.
Well, I hate to rain on your fantasy here, but I
don't want to talk about the weather.
That would be impossible, considering the fact that most of Schmoville don't even know we exist.
Yeah, because I promoted our Castle Rock recap.
What's this?
And I guarantee people are like, why does he get to promote stuff in here and we don't?
It's also a Snellingism to be like, they're thinking about me in a negative way. No.
Only Christian Harloff can talk shit about me.
Only Christian Harloff can drop a random meme and get everybody riled up for no apparent reason.
Oh, we'll talk about it after this.
Let's get into this song. Yeah, I am. One of my favorite things that we've ever done. We did a TV podcast back in the day.
Which one? We've done a lot.
I don't know. It was something we did, and you went to start, and I interrupted you in the middle of it, and it made you laugh really bad. And ever since, we're trying to reframe the Ryan Snelling humor. I feel like.
What do you mean?
But I don't know. We've lost our way. We've lost our way with the humor. I feel like we don't make each other laugh enough.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
It's 100% true.
You're the one that doesn't laugh at anything.
Well,
you don't even let me talk.
But that's part of my character.
I walked in the door. You asked me what I thought of Mission Impossible Fallout.
I know.
And you didn't let me say more than one word.
You were too on.
I was on, Jay?
You were doing an Ellis. Yeah, you were like trying to present to me a show.
I was just emotional.
That's fine. It's just a movie.
I just walked out of the theater. It's incredible.
What's that thing that Christian gets mad at about Star Wars? Remember that one time he went off?
A lot.
And he was like...
he gets mad at a lot.
It's okay to be passionate about Star Wars. It is true. It is. I'm not shitting on it. It's just...
Right.
It's 11 o'clock at night.
It is. That's because I went to go see the movie. Again, it's all this Sight and Sound stuff. It's getting in the way with Afterthoughts.
Really?
I left Ant-Man and the Wasp I left Afterthoughts to go see Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now we're delayed here because I went to go see the movie again, and
You baked a chicken one time or whatever? Or...
I cooked that salmon.
Yeah, that was for Afterthoughts, though.
Cody didn't know why.
I don't know why. I was confused myself. Why would you plan these things with this event that was
worked
taking
out
place?
perfectly. I had it seasoned and everything. I was good to go. I just had to take it out of the oven.
One of my favorite things about that situation was the fact that when we ended that whole thing, they were like, "Oh, it's done already? We're done already?" Yeah, man. Yeah. You told us we had an hour, and we went over.
Anyway, nice to meet you, Jay.
Yeah, exactly.
You're listening to Collider Afterthoughts, the show that examines the content and fandom at Collider. My name is Ryan Snelling. Jaye Williams, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I don't know. We didn't have an episode. There was an episode last week that we did. We pulled it. We'll talk about that in a second, I'm sure. But I was also without electricity for 5 days. We talked about that in depth on Sight and Sound.
5 days total?
5 days.
5 days without electricity.
5 days without electricity.
It's crazy.
Today, this is the first time my computer has been on, and I've gotten to do things. So, yeah, just trying to get back in the routine, get back in the swing of things.
Yeah. Last week we did the show, and it did work out for obvious reasons. I don't think we can talk about Schnepp enough, though. We addressed it on Sight and Sound because that was just the next thing that we did since it had happened. But I was very moved this week for several reasons. The reaction by the community, by the fandom, the reaction by the company and the staff that we are very lucky to be a part of. I was very saddened, of course, by what happened with Schnepp and with Holly and the people that we love over there. I was very, very saddened, but it wasn't all dark and gloomy because there's an aspect of it. Schnepp continues to pull people together as he always has, and I was just very proud of the staff that we like to give Christian and a lot of those guys a hard time, but I was very, very proud of them. I'm very proud of Fernandez, Roca, everyone, even the people that don't even work there that came on to talk about our buddy Schnepp. Very proud of all of them, and very, very proud of the community, and I am very lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah, it was, it was nice to sort of see the celebration, I think, of Schnepp's life, or at least his life on Collider, and get to see a lot of people talk about him. Obviously, it was a very emotional experience, and I think one of the most interesting things that's happened in this time period, you talked about how we spoke about it on Sight and Sound, and you're right, we did, because it was just the next podcast that we were doing. But we have a crossover audience, obviously, with the Collider fan base, and we're very thankful for that and grateful for that. But there's a lot of people that tune into that show that don't pay attention to Collider, which is completely fine and understandable. But they were sort of wrapped up in this. They were discovering Schnepp for the first time because of all this stuff. And, I think that's the thing that I walked away from, as my mic just fell over. I walked away from this whole thing looking at how many people Schnepp has sort of touched outside of this bubble. And when I say outside of this bubble, I just mean in Collider. I mean, we saw people paying tribute. Obviously, there was a huge sort of remembrance thing at Comic-Con.
They played Death of Superman Lives What Happened in Hall H.
Right,
it's incredible.
And it's I think that's what I'm taking away from it now. I'm sort of reflecting on is just how widespread his joy and his energy can be. And I think there's a lot of things that Schnepp leaves behind, obviously a legacy of content, but also a legacy of just his attitude and his personality that I think we can all grow from. And obviously it's an unfortunate circumstance to sort of make people realize that. But I think that's the positive. It's just that I want to be more like Schnepp in terms of just having this more celebratory attitude of being a fan.
I've thought a lot about that. Earlier this year, my grandfather passed away in the wintertime, and I was doing a lot of self-reflection. I don't know if the follow-through has been there, but I've done a lot of self-examination, and Schnepp brought that out of me as well. And I've just been thinking about that a lot. The amount of love that man received, it's incredible, and I'd be lucky to receive half of what I've seen this past week out of him. The best part about what you said, Jay, is that it's not over. His legacy, his career is not over. Because if I, read Collider and I read Fernandez and I read Hawley and all of those guys, the way I think we're going to get plenty more of Schnepp, whether it's a comic book, a television project, whatever. There's still a lot more to come from this man and his team. And I'm ashamed to say I still haven't watched Death of Superman Lives What Happened. But I can't wait to see it. I will definitely be checking it out soon. But I'm going to continue to think a lot about Schnepp. He hasn't left my mind once this week. And I had a moment. I broke down over this just because he was on my TV every day for years, and it's just it hurts worse than I thought it would, to be honest. And I think that's what everybody's saying. A lot of people have been moved by this.
I think if anybody, I actually haven't seen his entire documentary either. One day I did go to look for it, I think I stumbled upon it on YouTube, actually, of all places, and he had uploaded it onto YouTube. One of my favorite things, and he essentially trolled everybody. It's like the first, 15 minutes of the movie, and then there's just this weird psychedelic loop that plays like in the middle of it. It's like a narrative that happens in the documentary, but then all of a sudden this weird psychedelic 2001 A Space Odyssey sort of trip goes on in the middle of it, and you're like, oh, okay, this isn't the actual full thing.
Right.
He's trying to show me a little preview and then get me to go watch the full thing. And that's the type of stuff that, about Schnepp that makes me smile. But yeah, my heart goes out to everybody there, his family, his friends, everybody listening to this that's, sort of mourning as well. We're a community and support one another. And yeah, I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the future of everything, just with this reflection and sort of in our periphery as well.
And like I said, we can't talk enough about Schnepp, so the conversation isn't going to stop from here on out. And yeah, and that's a positive in my book. One of my favorite moments from the video package that they had, that montage. I love the moment where he's on Fat Man on Batman, and
yeah.
Kevin Smith slides the DVD over, the Blu-ray over, and says, "You just replaced Michael Moore as my favorite documentarian," because that moment Schnepp has where he just kind of chuckles because he's in disbelief. That was such a particular moment. It wasn't him waving his arms, doing the scrambles. It wasn't him saying sweaty. That moment sticks out to me in that montage, and I thought that was great.
Yeah, it's that fandom that he just wore on his sleeve. And
right.
Yeah, it goes without saying, he literally sweat it through his pores.
Yeah.
his fandom. And
I do just want to reiterate before we leave this, I want to reiterate that I am extremely proud of how everybody handled this. I thought it was just very well done, and everybody did good by our buddy John Schnepp. So yeah, I want to make sure that this is obviously such a sad and unexpected event. I want to make sure that it's just about Schnepp, because it's just because we're still here and we're still here and interacting with each other, that I've just seen some things that I don't care for, really. Just things that we could do without, some reactions that some people have made. And there's this unfortunate side of it unfolding on Twitter. And it's just really, really bothering me. And I feel like it's not going to be a whole thing here if we don't want it to be. But I feel like I need to address it too, just because I've just kind of been sickened by some of the reactions. I saw it in the Movie Talk live chat today. We're recording this on Thursday evening. I saw it today. I've seen it on Twitter. I don't know more than you, but I've seen what's going on with Robert Meyer Burnett and Heroes, and it's completely hard to ignore. It was the elephant in the room during the Heroes dedication to Schnepp that he wasn't there. He's been outspoken about it on Twitter, and this is the public part of it that is unfortunate, that people are asking questions. It's up to him to decide how much he says or does not say. And some people are left in the dark, again, including me. I don't know more than you, and I promise you, because I haven't been in contact with any of these people, because I don't know how to reach out to them yet. They've been under a lot, and I just haven't spoken to anybody, and didn't plan on it, because I wanted them to, think about everything else that they have going on, and I didn't want to bother. So I just want people to consider the fact that Collider could have been in a tough position based on some of the things that I've seen on Twitter. It seems like it actually was not Collider's wish to not have Robert Meyer Burnett, but I think that they were put in a tough place because they just wanted to support a decision made elsewhere. And Robert Meyer Burnett even spoke out and said that he doesn't have an issue with Collider. No, I don't think anybody's at fault. It's unfortunate and it sucks, but I just want everybody to put down their pitchforks, because I don't think people are thinking about how tough of a weekend it was and how tough of a time it's been on everybody, including Holly, including Schnepp's family. And I just wish that we could let this be and not make it about anything else but a celebration of Schnepp. And that's really all that I want to say on the matter.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to offer. I had a couple people ask me about it on Twitter. I don't really have anything to say. I don't have any information, as you alluded to, and I don't really like talking about things that I don't have information in regards to. And it's one thing to speculate about Collider and movies and all this other stuff, but this is obviously much bigger than that. So
right, and we kind of ran into this. People were asking us, like, when the Ken thing happened, when the Makuga stuff happened, and it's like, that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to dive deep into tragedies, for one. We're not here to dive deep into people that are on the outside of they're not even on-screen personalities. We're not here to address HR issues. We're not given that information, and I'm not going to waste any time on it, because ultimately it doesn't matter. A lot of it sucks, but sometimes we should just let it be and move on to the next thing. And it's funny because this kind of thing brings our show into perspective, and that's why I try not to take it serious. Whenever I describe what Jay and I do on this show, I'll make fun of us and say we're vomiting out things that we don't know anything about. I try to make light of it because I hope that this isn't – it's not supposed to be super serious. We have our opinions, but I just don't want to talk about that kind of stuff anymore. So right. I don't know if the listener came here and expected new information. I don't have it. I'm reading the same stuff you are, and I don't think we need to be spending time with it, because it's just been tough on everybody.
I agree.
So I think the big notable things, we might jump back and forth a little bit because we do have some ground to cover from last week, but I think the big stuff happened this week. We got two announcements. One, Movie Talk is changing times. So if you guys don't know this, Movie Talk is leaving its 9 a.m. PST spot, and it is moving to 4 p.m. PST, and it's so our 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right. Which is so interesting for several reasons. I will admit, the very first thing I thought of, how will this affect Ellis's stand-up career? I guess not at all, since it's a little bit earlier than it is here.
Yeah,
but.
I mean it's significantly earlier. He from what I can gather, so when I was in Los Angeles, we were going to try to catch him doing stand-up at the Comedy Store while we were there, and my buddy and I we went to dinner. Dinner went a little bit late, and we got out of there about 9:30, and he had already gone on stage. So I think the comedy stuff starts, a little bit earlier. In the evening. I think around 8 o'clock. So I don't think it's going to be an issue.
It feels like several things are falling into place here. And I thought a lot about our previous conversations on this show.
Yeah.
Going back to, it was actually a private conversation I had originally. I think I talked to Ellis about the views on Movie Talk and how I was a little bit concerned. He didn't seem to be as concerned as I was.
Sort of came up in the episode we did with him too.
Right. So I think this is an admirable change. I think Movie Talk could have used several. I don't know if this is the first thing that I would have come up with.
Right.
But the idea of just shaking up Movie Talk in general, I think, is an inspired decision based purely on the fact that, that was the staple for so long. We saw this move a little bit. It used to come on at like 10, then they moved it to 8, and then it went back to 9. And we saw that happen a few times the past year or so.
Very minute sort of shifts.
Right.
I think something like this is interesting because there are a lot of changing factors that you could speculate on it being a big deal, but we just don't know if it will be or not. I mean, let's be honest here. These guys wake up super early to show up to do this show every single day. And that's cool. I'm sure by this point they're used to it. They're used to doing that. But there has to be something said that doing the show later in the afternoon, once you've been up, once you've been able to gather your thoughts, and just in general you're having more stuff to discuss throughout the day, the show to me seems like it might feel a little bit different from an energy perspective. And I think that's interesting. I think that's exciting. I don't know what it's going to do to numbers, right? Because we've talked ad nauseum about how a lot of Movie Talk is dependent on the news cycle in general. And without there just being a straight up shift in what type of content they do, like that's probably not going to change. But it seems like they're going to be able to hit things a little bit more timelier than they ever have been before.
I think Monday morning is the biggest adjustment in the way that, like, when the weekend is over and the weekdays open up, I'm looking for my Le Batard in the morning. I'm looking for the Fighter and the Kid.
Sight and Sound.
There's a different – that's true. Sight and Sound drops on Monday. It's a different appointment. So there's a lot of time spent where I'm just waiting on Movie Talks. That's going to take an adjustment from, like, a listener or viewer standpoint. I saw some people in the chat today that were like they threw their arms up in the air and like, well, that was the only thing I could watch live, so unsubscribe. And I'm like, what the hell is the matter with you?
Hey, guys, if you said that, I don't think, A, you get YouTube. B, I don't think you get the internet. All right? I said this to somebody the other day, and I think they kind of thought about it, and they were like, huh, yeah, you're kind of right. Most people don't watch this shit live.
You
just don't.
Also don't need to, ever.
I sometimes watch shit live, but usually when I watch it is like right after they finish, because I usually get back from lunch at work around 12:45 and Eastern. That's when the show's on, and I'll start it while I'm eating my lunch. I'll just have to find something else to watch. And
right.
I think you are. I don't know if this was your point specifically, but Monday is usually the day that benefits Movie Talk. At least in its current standing, it benefits it the most, considering Collider kind of takes the weekend off, right? And they can sort of cover everything that happened over the weekend on Movie Talk on Monday. So that's a little bit interesting.
And not to mention they don't do it on Friday. So they have all
that
of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then all of Monday to do movie news.
That too.
And I'm not saying anything, again, I think it's still appointment viewing. It's just an adjustment because, it sort of, opens up the week for me. Movie Talk does, because it happens to be, it comes out for us at noon. But anyway, that's the only real adjustment, is that I don't have it in the morning. But that's it. It's not like it's the end of the world or anything.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to be annoyed with it, because I think with any change Collider makes, it brings those doom and gloomers. And I'm not lighting a flare as if it's the majority, but I still see people that do that. I think other people are kind of excited to see this kind of change up. Ultimately, because
very few things are changing, though. That's what's hilarious about it.
But Jay, let's talk about this now. Because the second thing I thought of, Ellis's stand-up career aside, that leaves the day wide open.
Right.
And so
more time for what's it called? The wrestling wrap, the wrestling sheet?
Pro wrestling
sheet?
Yeah, I called it the wrestling sheet on our podcast. It's called Pro Wrestling Sheet.
That's something we talked about in our Lost episode that, well, I'm not going to go super deep into it, but we paid a little bit closer attention, and that acquisition is becoming more confusing the longer I think about it.
Really? If we had another week to spend time with it and it's confusing?
Yeah.
I don't have any comment, because
sort of.
I subscribe to the channel, but I haven't seen I haven't noticed any of their videos in our subscriptions.
Well, last week we talked about it felt like they weren't getting an acquisition like this. You would think that there would just be this huge influx of the quote unquote Collider treatment, new thumbnails. They're doing it on a different set and all this stuff, but we didn't really see that. Let me rephrase what I said. I understand getting into the wrestling game. I understand picking up a small company, and we talked a lot about their web presence versus their YouTube presence. Their YouTube presence, they're a small YouTube channel. When I say small, I mean
sight and sound.
Yeah, sight and sound small. It's so, and I understand that a website it carries a lot of weight to it. And
what did we decide? There was like a 4-month time span that they didn't make videos, or was it even longer than that?
It was pretty significant.
Massive gap.
It
just
seems like video
off.
wasn't something that that was on the forefront of what they were trying to push. But it seems to me like that this. I think the exciting thing about it is that Collider's going to get to build something from the ground up, and maybe this was a relatively cheap acquisition.
We did notice that their website gets about 1 million average views a month, whereas Collider gets about 10 million.
Right.
So even though it's a tenth of it, it's still impressive.
Yeah.
Again, we didn't really have any insight into the wrestling corner of it, so that was actually a pleasant surprise to see how well the website has done, especially coming from just one guy. It's very Collider-esque in that way.
Absolutely. And yeah, so this all is spinning off of the back of the open time slots and this and that, and we'll touch on what could be potentially replacing Movie Talk. But I mean, in general, to our knowledge, they typically do sometimes they do more than 2 shows a day. They did Movie Talk 4 days a week. We know that sometimes they would double up on Heroes episodes. I don't know how frequently that's been.
And we don't know what that's going to look like moving forward either. We're not sure.
And then you've got a handful of other shows. But it seems like for the most part, Collider has space and room to create a lot of this content. It's just utilizing that space. This isn't me pointing fingers at them and saying, you guys aren't doing enough. I'm just saying, they have the room and they have the space to do this stuff, and it's exciting. I think it's exciting to see what's going to come down the pipe.
I didn't even realize it until we started talking like this, but right now it feels like what it felt like the week of the original Town Hall, right after the Fernandez stuff happens, because there's a lot going on, good and bad, that we're just not aware of yet.
Right.
But again, they're leaving this whole thing wide open. And it wasn't until they announced said Town Hall that I realized how big of a transition this seems to be.
Right.
For the direction of the entire YouTube channel. I think it's a lot more than just Movie Talk is moving, even though we're not privy to it yet and won't be until next week. I get a sense that our dreams are about to come true. But before we get into this, I do want to bring up something that we talked about on the Lost episode. If you've listened, when you started this podcast, you might have realized that this is not called the Collider Live Crusade Part 2. In part because it feels like we don't even need a Part 2. That's what it feels like. It feels like a Collider Live announcement is brewing, which is weird because there are so many ways that they could go about this, but I had always envisioned it that it was at least one time a week. But now they have 4 days that are wide open, so I don't know if that still means that other ideas are out there or if that means it could be the placeholder. Who knows? That's all up in the air. The discussion that we had, and you can take this wherever you want to go, the discussion that we had on the Lost episode, something came over me. It was like a nightmare. I was thinking about how you and I keep going back and forth about how they should just do it, how they can come up with any direction that they want as long as they get it out there and get it done. But the nightmare that came over me is that what if whatever they come up with is a massive departure from what we knew of the Schmoes No Show? And I am under the impression that we can compromise. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing, but if it is a significant departure from what we knew of the Schmoes No Live show and it turns out to not work out, then we're going to be in an interesting position because people like Christian and all those guys are going to shrug their shoulders and say, I told you so. And we're just going to be looking at them like, yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, let's get a few things out of the way. So
Unpack it.
It's not even really unpacking. It's
pack it back up.
Being a little hashtag transparent. So one thing we also revealed on the last episode is that Christian actually approached us about coming onto the show, and because of obviously
coming onto our show.
That's right.
Thoughts.
Yeah, because of obviously the things that happened and the things that took place last week that couldn't happen, and that's totally fine and totally understandable. But I had sort of assumed, and it seemed this way via his demeanor and his conversation, that part of it was to, well, for one, he wanted to rectify my experience of going to Los Angeles. He was absolutely pissed about the story that I told.
I know it's an off branch here, but can you explain that, please? Because I'm fascinated by this.
I was fascinated by it. Because okay, I don't even remember when this was. It was like a couple weeks ago now. But I basically woke up one day after our show had come out, the week that I had sort of talked about my experience of going to Los Angeles,
right?
To Christian basically texting me like a crazy person, saying how I am absolutely embarrassed. I am appalled that these people treated you the way that they did, that they made you stand there and all this stuff. And I would have showed you around. I would have given you a tour. And I just thought it was funny, like more than anything. Like I get it. I get the sentiment. Unfortunately, this isn't a character. This is me. I don't care. Like I just don't care. But I do 100% get it. Yeah, if it was... Listen, Christian, if you ever come to Sight and Sound Studios, I would be more than happy to show you into the one room that exists.
I love laughing at it because I know that you don't care.
Right.
I think it's hilarious. I think it's weird.
Yeah.
Imagine how I would...
If I was a quote-unquote in a managerial position and I found out that was the case for a guest, I would be annoyed.
Right. I'm the guy that took offense to my district manager not introducing himself to me the first day. Like, all of that. And imagine if I was there with you. I would have been the one that's like, what the hell are we doing here? And you would have been like, it's fine, Snelling. So I think it's I just think it's funny because I was thinking about what Christian said to them when he went back to work. Just the possibilities.
Yeah.
Did he sit everybody down? Did he go one by one and address everything? Like, I would love to have been a fly on the wall for that.
You know what? Because obviously the week that we're talking about when he would have done that is the week with the Shemp news. So maybe that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
Maybe the dust will settle and this will remind him to do so, because I actually think it's hilarious too, just to think that because of something that happened involving me that other people would get reprimanded, like Adam. Like
right.
he's gonna get yelled at.
I was gonna say Afterthoughts might have another PR issue with all the Wangers and all those guys.
Right.
But
yeah. I mean, that's the main goal, is that we want to have this show on Collider, but we don't want any of them to like us. Like, that's our main goal here.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
So
news to me.
You might be the number one culprit of that. Let's talk about Jeff Snyder and his irrelevant job. I'm just kidding.
I think, Jay, I might be known as the guy that does things like that, but lately, you've been spitting fire.
Have I?
And I love it. I'm not reprimanding you in any way.
Well, I know, because I'm impervious.
Take your Collider news
Everyone
that
loves
you
me.
can get anywhere else. I'm sorry, it is not special. That's a Jaye Williams take, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved
Oh,
it.
I know.
You've done that a couple times
Most
the past few weeks.
People typically just like me, though, so it's
true.
It's okay.
If I said the exact same thing,
It's fair.
Christian would yell at me way worse if I had said that exact same take than he did.
Right.
Anyway,
So anyways,
that's how I live my entire life.
anyways, Christian approached us about coming on the show. I think I have it in the back of my mind that he was sort of going to talk about the Collider Live stuff and this and that. But it's also no secret that this was announced, and then there was silence on it for a very, very long time. We've talked about that a lot, and it seemed like something that was just very hazy. It was a gray area. No one was really sure what was going on with it. And again, #transparency, we had some conversations to try to get some more information. And even based on those conversations, we were unsure how people felt about it. If they wanted, when I brought it up when I was there, it seemed like it just sort of got glossed over. Somebody even commented on that episode and was like, "Why didn't you ask him about Collider Live?" I did.
We talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it, but it sort of just kind of evaporated. But
also the biggest tell of all of this is Christian's cryptic posts in Schmoville. He's done about 6 memes that have seemed to. And for one, Christian's just barely a part of that group to begin with, which means that these posts, even though they're cryptic, they're that much more pivotal because he clearly has something to say. So yeah, and plenty of I see a lot of eyeballs on those posts. A lot of people reading into it the same way, and I think we're all expecting and we're all ready for that announcement. Do you have any fears that the show that we, if they announce it, the show that we might end up getting, could we potentially be facing some kind of backlash, or do you think most people are going to be accepting of whatever it is? I know this is jumping the gun a little bit, but
I mean, there'll definitely be some backlash because that's just the temperature of things that happen and change with Collider. But here's the thing with this, though. Here's the wild card, is that Collider has never really had this. We don't even know, like, so if they brought the Schmoes Know live show flavor to Collider to replace Movie Talk in the mornings or whatever the case may be, we still don't really know what they are going to talk about. And you know as well as I do, some of the best parts of that live show are them shooting the shit at the top. And guess what? That just doesn't happen at Collider, and it's going to feel so new and so interesting and so different. I have a feeling there are going to be some people that stumble upon this who maybe haven't clicked on, like, all those 500, whatever, close to 500,000 subscribers
492
that Collider has, and we just don't see them on a regular basis. I think some of those people are going to unearth themselves and click on this or hear about this, I think this is going to have some buzz behind it. And it's important to get out of the gate, all guns a-blazing. I also noticed that Christian posted a meme featuring Brett recently.
Yes. And
that excites me. I don't know what he's doing these days at all. Maybe he's just hanging pictures all over Los Angeles. You know what? That's what I should have done while I was there. I should have tried to schedule somebody to come hang a picture and just try to go fishing for Brett Sheridan. But we just don't know, man. We don't know what it's going to be, but I have full confidence in the people that are putting the show together, because kind of like you, lately I've been getting that itch, and I'll go back and check out an old Schmoes Know thing every now and then, and it's just, man, is it special.
Yeah.
And I'm excited.
And again, like I said before,
if that's what's going to happen,
I want to reiterate, I am under the impression, I believe that there could be and maybe should be some compromise. We can give this to you, but bear with us. We can't give you this aspect of the Schmoes Know show. And if that's the case, within reason, I will understand. I mean, I get it. I just kind of want it to exist. But again, the nightmare was what if it's completely different? But we can play that wait and see game.
Right.
I'm excited. Right now I just want to think about the announcement, and I only want to think about the good that can come of this. That was just some dread that came over me last week. There was something else that I was going to mention. Oh yeah. Another thing that I thought about, and this wasn't really an examination of Collider in general. It was just something I thought about because I've been listening to a lot more Rogan, a lot more The Fighter and the Kid.
You like that?
You have been listening to these things, so
it's my favorite shows.
That's a new fandom that I have, is The Fighter and the Kid and Joe Rogan. And I was thinking about the fact that these guys
don't talk about dicks enough.
Play in the same circles.
Okay, sorry.
As Christian and Ellis.
Not so much Christian, but yeah.
But, in the sense that Christian
can
still go to the store
yeah.
for mid-seat. He still has some of those friends, right?
His name is still on the wall.
I was thinking about how I really wish, if anything, they had stuck with Schmoes Know, the brand, just so they could be one of those things. Maybe less.
Oh, I see.
If
less
Schmoes,
suit and tie a little bit.
No. I wish Schmoes Know, looking back on it, I wish Schmoes Know played the movie fandom card less and just became another Fighter and the Kid and Rogan. That way, Christian and Ellis could play be on those shows, and I think that they would explode. Obviously, that's not something they could have predicted, but I was just thinking about it in an alternate universe. What would it be like if Schmoes Know was sort of a brother to all of these other shows? Isn't that funny?
Yeah, but you're sparking something else inside of me right now. You're
What's that?
You're sparking a Papa J rant. Something that happened this week was on the Monday episode of, I guess it was a Tuesday episode of Movie Talks. Monday was the Schnepp thing. When they made the announcement that Collider was moving, and it was Ellis and Perry and Jeff Snyder. They were talking about the James Gunn thing, and Ellis was talking about how he doesn't like F-bombs on Movie Talk, and
he dropped one today, which is funny.
Well, yeah, and all that. And then we also know about this.
I don't care.
This cursing thing. I felt the weight of that on that episode about how, there's these limitations. Can we fucking stop with this? This is the internet. There is no reason to have any of this at all. It's 2018, and some of the biggest shows that exist, period, in any form of content entertainment are things like podcasts and YouTube channels where you don't have these restrictions. Who are you protecting? Is this for kids? Do you think kids don't hear cursing? Do you think kids aren't listening to rap music that's talking about all this stuff?
That doesn't mean that they want to be...
But it's honestly it's disingenuous. I know. I know. We know how these people talk. Who are you protecting here?
But Jay, I think that they already... they're already on board with everything that you're saying.
But there's
you
some
heard
sort
Ellis,
of there's some sort of mystery, no cursing thing looming
Mark
over.
Fernandez.
I caught Ellis or I caught Christian doing it today on Jedi Council, and I get it to a certain extent.
Jay, I don't think you have any reason to make this case because even Fernandez, he told me directly, and he said it on Jedi Council when he was on last week. He talked about how he openly says, I wish we didn't curse as much, but he will still be the one to drop an F-bomb.
Right.
Like, it's just, they are aware that they have a young audience. I am not privy to any of that information. I don't know any of the numbers. I don't know the percentages here, but they do have young people that watch. So they're just thinking about being mindful about it. Like,
I mean, I get
what's wrong with that?
I get it to a certain extent.
They still let it go from time to time.
So we got the news from Fernandez. He sort of cleared it up for us that it like you said, it's be mindful about it. And I get that to a certain extent, but me personally, I'm not a fan of that, man. Like, again, it's 2018. Like, if kids can go on the internet and see whatever they want, right? I mean, who makes that not a thing? It's their parents, right? So if their parents aren't going to let them watch this or that, then that's completely fine. But my point is the fact that on the internet, like, this self-censoring sort of thing, it just doesn't really need to happen.
What if it affects their monetization, though?
Figure it out. That's what I'm saying. There are places out there that don't follow any of these rules and make plenty of money. And in fact, I would even say this: if that's the sort of model that you're chasing, like some sort of censor ourselves and this and that sort of model, it's dated, it's antiquated. There are different ways to make money. That is an old model. That is a TV type of model. That is a radio type of model. And everything is running in the opposite direction, and the things that are running in the opposite direction are capitalizing on it. And it's proven at this point. Places like Twitch, places like all of YouTube, places like podcasts. I mean, it's these outlets that don't have those type of barriers exist.
I think a lot of it is just down to tone, and I think a lot of it's down to preference. Like,
right. The other side to this discussion, real quick, and let me just say this: there is another side of this discussion that I sort of side with Ellis on, and that is I'm not saying like they just again, I'm not saying they go full Fighting the Kid and just start talking about dicks and stuff all the time. We talk a lot about how we have a very specific sort of conversation, right? Like, there, without getting into it, there was a time and a place where we thought about collaborating with another YouTube channel that was like overtly crass.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that just doesn't mix with our tone, like what
exactly.
you just said.
So it comes down to
I
tone.
get that. I totally get that.
So the way Ellis handles movie talk, I think it works,
right,
and it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Just because they don't.
Do we curse more than anything on Collider? I would say
I don't know. Maybe
I would say absolutely 100% without a doubt. I've never thought once about not saying something specifically that was on my mind.
But they would have a case if Fernandez approached us and said, "Look, you're not fitting the tone. Maybe cut back." I
would say. Sorry,
I would say that's a reasonable request.
I would say take it or leave it. This is how I talk, and if you don't like it, then that's it. I mean, I refuse.
But there are episodes that we've done where we haven't needed to talk the specific ways that you're talking about. I'm sure there's been an episode of Afterthoughts where neither of us had an F-bomb or anything like that.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's a natural conversation.
Sure.
It's 100% natural. Like, and again, to go back to...
But it's also just not a big deal if I was just like, yeah, let's maybe just not say the F word that much.
I mean, I've never, ever had to think about how I speak in any sort of way, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, I've never thought to myself, man, I went a little too crazy with that.
You mean all of the times before you weren't on Collider?
What do you mean?
You've never had to think.
I've
never had to think of it that way because you haven't been all the times before Collider.
Even with Collider, nothing has changed for me doing this show here right now than I've ever done any other podcast that I've ever done. Period.
I guess my point is overall tone, like the way Ellis handles movie talk. It's not like I need them to cuss because
Right, of course.
I don't feel like they're expressing themselves the
Right.
proper way. Not that I've seen them cuss on Harloff and Ellis or whatever, but it's about the tone of the show, and it just doesn't matter to me. But I know that when Snyder on Movie Talk disrupts the tone and says that he saw a movie where a father f's a kid, that point to me, I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
But the only reason I agree with you, but the only reason I felt that way is because I'm supposed to think that way because we're not supposed to, quote unquote, talk like that on Movie Talk. I don't have a problem with that. I hear plenty of conversation that's similar to that all the time. And the whole framework of this whole thing is sort of, to get back to what we were talking about, the live show, the Schmoes Know live show, was known for being a little bit more, quote unquote, adult than what Collider typically presented, correct?
Yeah.
It's always had that sort of thing. So
to the point where they're drinking on camera.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my whole thing is, you talk about what can we expect and this and that. I would hope that it would be whatever show they want it to be. Like, I get it. They're like, we're not paid, right? We're not paid by Collider. We can do, and
aren't there ads on our podcast?
We can do and we can say whatever we want, as long as we're not offending people, which that's not the type of people that we are. Like, we don't do shit like that. So it's like, that's not going to be an issue. So I do get it. Play by the rules, play by the game if you want to have your job. But again, I'm just saying, like, it's the internet. Let's have some fun. Let's just have some fun. Try something new.
I still think we've never been given a language mandate. So part of me still thinks that you have no reason to profess this.
Right. And again, I wouldn't follow a mandate.
Like,
that's the thing.
If this becomes a should Collider Live be neutered, if you ask me that question, I would say no. It shouldn't be neutered.
Absolutely.
Because it should have as much DNA of the Schmoes Know live show as possible, based purely two main reasons that we've talked about. For one, it's giving the fans what they want, and also because it will automatically be different than everything else on the channel, and it maximizes and optimizes the chances that the crew has a ton of fun. Now, this is early in the morning. If it's replacing Movie Talk, and Movie Talk is let's say Movie Talk is one of the last things that those people do before they leave for the day, then I don't know that they're going to be drinking beers and guzzling beers on Collider Live. And I'm not saying that, that's what we're missing is them having a beer in front of them. It's whatever. They could still be loose.
That's not a big deal.
But I agree with you if that's the conversation, but I don't think it's a topic of conversation for Collider overall. Like, I think you're worrying about something that's not.
I'm not worried about it. All I'm saying, is that I want Collider. I like content that mirrors the conversation that I have in my everyday life.
But that's you, though. There could be,
I totally
could be
get
a younger audience that we are not aware of.
I completely get that. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, let these personalities be whoever. If you have a group of people who think that they should never curse at all doing a show, then that's clearly how they talk and communicate. But again, like, if Jeff Snyder wants to say this or that, however, we're talking in circles.
And to be totally fair, to your point, I don't think Collider can put out a video where they are rolling joints with an actor from a movie.
Right.
And then, so like, if Ellis just wants to decide for himself, I'm not going to throw out any F-bombs. I'm fine with that. But
Agreed.
If there was some kind of language barrier that came down from on high, but they'll put out a video, they cuss on the Schmodown.
You mean from on high, the guy that works over there in the corner in the office?
Frank?
No, Fernandez.
Oh. If there was a mandate on high, I mean, I would point at the joint video, the weed video, and be like, well, I mean, that's not really kid friendly either.
Right.
So again, I just don't think we I think we're addressing something that didn't need to be addressed.
I'm not addressing anything. I'm just saying.
You brought it up.
I'm just saying, like, this is. I don't want there to be a focus on that. Like, I didn't like feeling on Monday like, oh no, is it okay for him to say that? And that's on me. That's completely on me. But again, that's what we were told. We were told that it's to be mindful. And I get it. We don't want people walking around, fuck you, fuck. Like, I get it.
I don't even remember what we were talking about. We're talking about Collider Live.
We're talking about Collider Live.
And the possibilities. I don't know. That's really all I got. When it comes to the DNA of
Well,
the
there's
show.
nothing else. I mean,
everything else is wait and see.
We've talked about it until we're blue in the face. Like,
and I will until we get answers.
what it means, what it could mean.
I just think
could be.
I think everything right now, everything's pointing to this possibility, and so.
Well, let's just throw this out there. Collider habitual plug pullers on things. That's something.
I'm glad you brought this up.
That's something that, I mean, I think that's got to change as a whole.
We talked about this on the Lost episode last week. Movie review talk. I put some of this on Collider in that I don't feel like it was properly promoted. But at the same time, I think it's been going on about a month and a half, 2 months now. So I think part of it is on the fans a little bit. Only because, at least this is my perspective. Okay, if you don't want to watch the show, you don't like the show, okay, fine. But it is egregious to me that, and last week's episode aside, because it came out at midnight and there was no programming on Friday, I'm not talking about that. It is egregious to me that Movie Review Talk only gets 12,000 views. Hey, Collider fans, what are you doing? It's in the spot that Movie Talk would normally be in. What else are you doing? Like, I can't imagine.
I don't think they want to watch the show.
I don't get it. Like, I don't get why this many people aren't watching the show. That's what I'm thinking about. Because I'm not talking about astronomical numbers. I'm talking about baseline, about what Movie Talk gets, a mix of what Movie Talk gets and what any other movie review show that Collider, because movie reviews, like the spoiler talks, the things that came out before all of this, they did well.
But why is that? Because they typically talk about tentpole movies on the spoiler talks that are going to have more eyes anyways.
Movie Review Talk is debuted and continues to be going on during the summer season,
right? Where
a blockbuster movie is the topic of conversation.
As people are going to movies and this and that. Like, I think I don't have the numbers in front of me, obviously, but I'd be curious to know if a spoiler talk would do better than a typical review on Collider. Like, if you put I don't know, the Ant-Man. Maybe that's a bad one. Infinity War is kind of bad too. But let's just say Ant-Man. If you put Ant-Man review and Ant-Man spoiler review talk right next to each other, I'm curious to see.
I don't know.
Who would have more?
I just know that. I know that I feel we need to support this because it encourages.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good show.
It's a good show. It's hosted by someone we all love. It encourages, watching the show encourages Collider to take chances and try different things aside from the same old. Not only does it talk about the big tentpole film, but it's a what's streaming and indie picks. It has several aspects that are, they all have a place in that show. It's not like a TV talk where it's like astronomically different, all these angles coming into one place. It's digestible. It's the shortest long-form show on the channel. The cost to watch it is nothing. It's 30 to 40 minutes. It's just annoying to me that more people aren't watching this. I don't know what there is to say bad about the show.
I think that the content. Well, I think that the personalities are good. I think that the conversations that they have is good. I think the content. I don't think there's anything special about the content. That's my biggest issue with the show. It's not particularly special. It's just, for me, it's just another review show, a review podcast that exists. And this is what we talked about a little bit last week. I would like it to bring a little bit something new to the table other than just people that I went back and I watched one because I just saw which I guess it is what it is. I went and saw Sorry to Bother You, which, hey, movie YouTube, do better. Like, barely anybody reviewed that film. The only review of the people that I really like I mean, I don't even watch FlickPick. I was fucking looking for his. Like, not that I have anything against him, but I was like, somebody review this movie.
I was gonna say you went to the wrong YouTuber for that.
So the only people that I knew of that I would rely on was Movie Review Talk. So I like that. I celebrate that. And again, love the show. I really do like the show.
The nothing special argument is exactly why, like I said, I'm just talking about baseline Movie Talk numbers.
For sure.
That's the case I'm making. It should just be fine. It should not be on the brink of cancellation.
But can you compare them, though? Because that's...
Sure.
Why? You're comparing a news show that talks about everything from breaking news to just drama in Hollywood.
Because it's exactly my point.
Compared
the fact that
to
it's not special,
a review
because it's familiar.
movie show.
It's a combination of a few things that have been proven to have an audience on the channel, hosted by people that we love. Now,
I don't think that movie reviews are proven audiences on the channel. And this is what we talked about last week. There are movie review personalities that exist on YouTube that people are already subscribed to. What makes this group of people somebody else that they should pay attention to?
To connect this to Collider Live, I will say that I hope Collider Live is promoted more than like a week ahead of time.
Right.
Because I don't think Movie Review Talk, I don't know if
I agree.
Everyone was on board when it came out.
I agree.
I mentioned this to Christian, and I feel like this is something that they need to implement. You know how YouTube has a setting now to where channels can post
Yes.
to their subscribers?
Still figuring out how to do it.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, like if I open up my subscriptions on YouTube, I can scroll through them, video to video to video, and one channel can actually post something.
It's almost like Twitter.
Collider Games did it today. So
did
I
they?
was proud to see Collider Games. They posted a poll in my YouTube subscriptions asking which game people were most excited for this fall. Collider Video could implement those kinds of things to not only put up it's an opportunity for a billboard. Be on the lookout for this tomorrow. It's the thumbnail for
Absolutely.
Collider Live. They can also get input from the fans. What's your favorite part of this show? What's your least favorite part? And they can make changes based on all of this stuff. I haven't seen Collider utilize it yet.
Right.
I'm waiting on that. I mentioned that to Christian because, and I know Christian has a promoter background, and I get it.
He's the best at it.
But that is something I've seen plenty of people do that they are not on board yet, and we try to get them on board and make sure that they like. It's weird to me. Collider Games did it before video, and if I'm wrong about that, maybe I missed one this week because we have been out of it a little bit, but. It was the first one I noticed. I feel like it could really help Collider Live, and I think anytime a show is having an issue, they can get immediate feedback as to why Movie Review Talk isn't working, follow suit with anything else that they have going on, and yeah. Anyway, that's sort of a mixed bag of a conversation, but
yeah, I mean, I want the best for that show because I like the people involved. I love the conversation. And again, this is something we talked about last week on the last episode, but I almost feel like it feels more like a podcast, but that's not something you can just relegate Scott Mantz to.
I was going to say, it does. I don't think it's worth Scott Mantz's time to come in and just record it as a podcast when it's already both. So what I do know, the show isn't live anymore, and I remember one week, their Instagram story, Scott Mantz came in the middle of the week with Gray Drake to record his episode. It was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So if he's coming in the middle of the week and you're worried about taking up Scott Mantz's time, why don't you maximize that time, put him on Movie Talk that day, and then give him the room to also promote Movie Review Talk and make a case for it. Like, I feel like that's just a very obvious thing. Maybe there's something I'm missing. There's a reason why that hasn't happened, but...
No, I think across the board, I think Collider's, I've said this before, but I think they've done better and they're doing better at promoting, but I still think they have a long ways to go. Especially things like it's sort of hard to say, but there are certain things at Collider that you could maybe pull back on promoting to supplement for your new shows, like especially new shows. Like, maybe we don't need to promote every single Movie Talk episode. Just saying. Like,
where do we promote Movie Talk?
they'll do an Instagram story of behind the scenes, just certain stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying that if it's a question of time, like, let's just try to promote it. Let's just try to promote our new shows a little bit better, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Playing the wait and see game next week. I think we'll be back to form, hopefully talking about some really exciting announcements. I think, do you expect a Heroes announcement this soon?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. I think maybe. So the one thing we haven't really talked about is that they announced another town hall, and I don't know what we're going to get out of this town hall. It seems to have come a little bit out of nowhere. I thought that maybe we would have heard about it a little bit before. It's fine that we didn't hear about it. I'm excited. I thought that town hall was one of the best things that Collider's ever done, just in the sense that for a while, it felt like everybody who was a little bit on edge were a little bit more hopeful and excited. I would assume that if that would be a good platform to make an announcement for the future of Heroes or how it would go potentially. But I could also understand them not wanting to rush and make a judgment. That show can still take place with fill-in hosts, whoever it might be. I was sort of thinking about this because last time we were prompted to ask questions, and I don't really have a ton of questions. Like, it's sort of that instance where if somebody came to me and was like, "Hey, we want you guys to ask," a question on the thing, I would literally give them the "don't ask, just listen." Like, we've asked plenty of questions on Afterthoughts.
Take your pick, really.
Yeah.
I want to hear them address a little bit of everything. Tell me a little bit more about Pro Wrestling Sheet.
Yeah.
Tell me things like the 4-video mandate on Collider News. I would like to hear some of that kind of stuff.
Can someone explain to me what that magazine was or whatever that they did? What was that thing
that was
called?
more the .com, but still that too.
Or just like, I think I asked this question or somebody asked this question about like, how is Collider making money? And I'm not interested in that because I don't think that's necessarily any of our business, but I would like to know some of the assets that Collider has their hand in, because if I'm pushing for Collider Live and more video stuff, and the answer is we can't because we're building a VR game or because we're working on a documentary. I get wanting to hold your cards a little bit close to your chest, but even being as vague as right now we have our hand in filmmaking, like you guys don't know what it is, but yeah, I would like to know a little bit more about stuff like that.
I mean, you know what? I hope that they feel comfortable. I think Christian could do this if Fernandez didn't want to. I think they could stand their ground a little bit against the fans.
I agree. 100%.
Going back to what we're seeing with this Robert Meyer Burnett stuff, the stuff that we saw with Ken and Makuga, I think maybe they did mention this on the town hall because Ellis did confront Fernandez about the removals and things like that. But I want them to feel like they can just be straight up with us too and be like, look, you want us to be transparent about literally everything. We're not going to do that. Like,
right.
Maybe we can do better about giving you insight on the programming and maybe some new acquisitions, things like that, what you can expect in the future. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. But sorry, you don't get to know what's going on with Holly any more than she decides to reveal. Like, that kind of stuff, put your foot down, and if any fan has a problem with it, well, I'll just bitch about you on the show.
So I would also like to see kind of what more they have planned with that podcast studio. It's up and going now. We got the Witching Hour and stuff like that. But I would love to know, we're however many months, 6 months or whatever, with this thing sort of going, and I would like to see. Here's what I want out of the town hall. I know it's a town hall, but I would like to see them take less fan questions and do a more like, this is the state of the union. Like, this is where we're at. We've done this new experiment. Here's what's worked. Here's what hasn't worked. And here's what we're going to do. I would love for them to announce a slate of things. Like, this is what we're working on right now. Like, this is where we want to go, because I think that would make people, again, it would be more positivity that could be breathed into the fan base and something to look forward to. And they can be honest, like if they try to develop something and it just hit a hitch, then tell us. I think there's entertainment in that too. Like just being like, hey, we're working on this thing and it's not working.
I'd be curious to see if they do it in sections too. Like if Joey gets a moment to talk about Collider games,
right?
It's sort of like keynotes at like E3 or something. Christian comes out, addresses the Schmodown, maybe one-on-one or whatever. Maybe there's like appointed discussions based on who runs that aspect. Dennis can speak on production, things like that. I'd be curious to see that kind of thing too.
I think we are going to get an announcement of whatever this morning show is going to be. But other than that, I'm not really sure what else. There's still
Bad Robot podcast.
There's still a lot of things that are kind of floating out in the open. I think like a replacement for TV talk. TV cover. Listen, I mean, TV coverage on Collider. Like, I don't even need to go into this because, like, we've made our case, and it's literally been proven at this point. Okay, you did one Westworld video, and guess what? It did fucking great.
Karate Kid as well.
Whatever
that show
a couple
was called.
Random TV
Cobra Kai.
A couple random TV videos. Not trying to throw shade. Did better than like all movie review talks. So
if you guys want in on the inside joke, we always talk about how Christian hates TV. LOL. We've talked about this many times, but earlier this week there was the announcement that Game of Thrones was going to return at the beginning of 2019, and the first thing that Jay and I said to each other was, we gotta make sure that we let Collider know so they have time to prepare their coverage. 8 months out, 9 months out,
basically anything that we say that makes a lot of sense that we get pushback on, just wait 6 months and it'll actually happen. Because that's literally always happened, even back in after Schmo days. Like it was happening. We're phasing out the fourth chair on Movie Talk. As if that was never brought up here. No, I'm just kidding. They give credit where credit was due.
Yeah. That's all I got.
The last thing I want to mention, I don't want to forget talking about one-on-one. Obviously, there's episodes still in the pipe. Still love the fact that never really knowing what episode is going to come out. The Brett Ernst episode was announced. I didn't even know he did one with Brett Ernst. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
I thought he posted a picture.
Well, it's starting to get hard to like figure out who he's done one with and who's just popping in or whatever. But it's exciting. I think it's exciting. That seems to, of all the things that Collider has done in this sort of new era, this new wave, that is a show that is just straight up flourishing. I mean, it is absolutely busting at the seams in a good way. I mean, it's maybe not doing like 100K per episode and stuff like that, but for what it is to be as unique as it is to Collider, it's doing really, really well. And this Brett Ernst episode, I'm actually really looking forward to because I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe he and Christian have past relationship from the Comedy Store days, and Brett Ernst is a name that I hear thrown around a lot with people that run around the Comedy Store, like Joe Rogan, Fighting the Kid, as you said earlier.
I was gonna say he needs to get Brian Callen or Brendan Schaub on one-on-one.
Yeah,
and he needs to make an impression. Be funny, Christian. Get them to love you.
Well,
make a connection.
Brian Callen, he just shot a special that he's got to shop around to promote. He also has that new TV show that he's going to have to promote.
That's true.
Brendan Schaub, allegedly, I don't know if this is 100% or not, but probably going to be in the new Wonder Woman movie. So
it's Christian. So listen,
he also recently just got into WWE.
You need to get in with these guys, but take it easy on the movie stuff. I don't think they care about movies on YouTube. Relax, take it easy.
They care about movies, but their movie opinion is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Did you hear their Did you hear their Tom Cruise discussion?
Yeah. It's like 10 years old. Like they were just talking about things everybody already knows about, like his crooked teeth and things like that.
What movie did Brendan Schaub like go off defending? And I was like,
Face Off?
Yeah.
It wasn't Tom Cruise, but same discussion.
yeah. He like acted like it was just this agreed upon thing that movie is great.
Which it's not.
It's not.
But a lot of people do like that movie, to be fair.
I know
it's a mixed bag.
It was like he watched Collider and caught their collective opinion or something like that.
Christian, just make a nice impression.
Why are you
be
standing
funny.
right now? We're not talking about Game of Thrones.
Neither is Collider. Anyway, that's it. Actually, you know what?
If you want to talk about Collider, you guys just do it. Okay. Fine.
I'm doing Castle Rock. And that's 1/100th of the size of Game of Thrones. Anyway, the last thing I do want to mention, you brought up one-on-one. I want to mention Jeff Snyder on Riley Roundtable, which is out there right now, so definitely check it out if you haven't. I will say I am the guy that talks about not liking things that are too serious. I don't like the scoop game. It's not interesting to me. I don't like the news aspect of Collider as much, but I will say that his interview did give me some insight as to what his role is and who Jeff Snyder has been in Hollywood since he's been there. So it did enlighten me a little bit, and he gave me some newfound appreciation for what he does overall. And it's just an interesting, good listen because nobody, again, as per usual, nobody talks like he does on the network right now. So it's a good listen.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out.
All right. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to us, guys. You can find Jay and I elsewhere talking about pop culture on Sight and Sound. Like I said, we just recapped the first 3 episodes of Castle Rock. It's the brand new Bad Robot show on Hulu. You can check those out right now. You can find the podcast or the YouTube version on our channel. I'm streaming Fortnite, so you can find us on Twitch. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WhatUpSnell.
You can find me at Jaye Williams, J to the A to the Y to the E. It's the same for both. I got a music show. It comes out every single Friday. I do it with my buddy Brando over on Sight and Sound. If you subscribe to the the Sight and Sound podcast feed, you'll get it along with the rest of our content. All of August, is that right? All of August, Brando and myself, we're going to be running down the entire catalog from the band Thrice. They have a new album coming out in September, so if that interests you, you can stop by and check it out. Other than that, that's all I've got. Ryan has put down his microphone, so we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.